Zoe Maritime Resources Limited recently put together the Lagos International Maritime Week 2023, which is the 8th International Maritime Business-to-Business Conference and Exhibition from Tuesday the 19th to Thursday the 21st of September. Day 1 and 2 of the conference was held at the Lagos Oriental Hotel Victoria Island, while Day 3 saw participants embarking on an excursion to the Lagos State Waterways Authority, LASWA. The theme of this year's conference was tagged MAPOL at 50, Pollutions from Ships, Africa's Commitment to Clean Oceans, Seas, Inland Waters and the Marine Environment. The first day of the event kick-started with a welcome address by the chair of Zoe Maritime Resources Limited in the person of Mrs. Orishematosan Edodo Emore, followed by goodwill messages from His Royal Majesty Oba Abdulwasiu Omogbolahon Lawal, OON Abisogun II, the Oniru of Iru Land, who was ably represented. Michel Dillon, Consul General, Consulate General of the Kingdom of Netherlands, was also ably represented, and the keynote address was given by His Excellency Adegboyega Isiaka Oyetola, the Honorable Minister for Marine and Blue Economy, who was also ably represented.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Lagos International Maritime Week 2023, which comprises the 8th International Maritime Business-to-Business Conference and Exhibition. As is our custom, we usually use the theme of the World Maritime Day to carve out the theme of the Lagos International Maritime Week, and we adopt it to our continent. And this year, the theme is MAPOL at 50, Pollution from Ships, Africa's Commitment to Clean Oceans, Seas, Inland Waters, and the Marine Environment. For a continent comprising 54 developing countries, the sustainable development of the ocean economy is key to Africa's growth. It is now 50 years since the enactment of the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, MAPOL. This is a convention that deals with prevention of pollution of the marine environment by ships, whether such pollution comes from how the ship is operated or from accidents involving the ship. Nigeria has domesticated this convention, as many African countries have. And in Nigeria, we have also made it part of our municipal laws in the Merchant Shipping Act. In this edition of LIMWIC, we're going to examine how pollution from ships affects different aspects of our collective existence, its effect on maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea, its effect on marine transportation, its effect on the marine environment, and its effect on women and their businesses, and also the vexed issue of burning of vessels, whether this is a security issue, whether it's an environmental hazard, and whether this act actually conflicts with MAPOL. As usual, we have an enviable collection of experts and industry stakeholders from Nigeria and from outside of Nigeria to bring practical solutions to all burning issues.
My name is Chief Olumide Oniru. I am the Olokmo of the Kingdom. We are here today representing His Royal Majesty Oba Abdulwasiu Omogbolahon Lawal, the Abisogun II, the Oniru of the Kingdom, CON. So he is very delighted, actually, that this event is taking place in his domain, in our domain, in our backyard. As the organizers have already established that Iru Kingdom is a place that has thrived in the past through maritime activities and maritime economy. A curious look at this year's program of events and insightful about the Lagos International Maritime Week synopsis is indicative of the depth and relevance of the maritime economy of Nigeria. I also noted with admiration the relevance of the various topics for discussion and of course on the economy. We all look forward to robust and impactful deliberations. As a committed environmentalist myself, I am particularly interested in this topic, pollution from ships and consequences on cargo, waste, water, transportation, etc. The reasons for my special interest is quite obvious. The realm of my kingdom is completely surrounded by ocean and the Lagos Lagoon. As the lord of this realm, maritime port business activities impacts the lives of my people more than any other. We will continue to support the government and businesses. We will also insist on more eco-friendly and responsible ethics in the management of the environmental aspects of the maritime businesses. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all fruitful deliberations. God bless you all, and God bless our nation, Nigeria.
The subject of the Maritime Week is also pollution, and that is a sad story, and I think we all know the examples, and we all see it also when we go to the beautiful beaches of Lagos that were just referred to. Recently it was again World Beach Cleanup Day. Last year we as an office also participated in that, but sometimes you get a little bit in despair, like you clean up the beach one day and the next day everything washes ashore again. So we need to find structural solutions for that. Structural solutions in a much more circular economy, structural solutions for plastic waste, but also structural solutions for the way in which big international cargo vessels are propulsed. Because the fuel that is used in those ships, let's say, is not of the best quality. And if you look at it environmentally, lots of progress can be made on that side too. I was also pleased to see the focus on women and youth, and I think that's definitely primordial to look at. It's also something we do in our office. All the projects that we do are also in the framework of job creation, women and youth. But if you talk about maritime, I think it's very often overlooked, and youth is essential in all the elements of maritime job creation too. So thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here amongst such eminent experts of the maritime sector, and as a Dutch person with my feet in the water, I always feel at home in this situation. Thank you very much.
It is on record that over the years, the Lagos International Maritime Week has played a part as a solution provider to the maritime challenges facing Africa and Nigeria in particular, creating a platform for robust maritime deliberation and decision making. This assists the ministry. This is a welcome development in promoting the mandates of the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, while tailoring its discussions towards enabling sustainable management of the marine environment. It is my hope that this engagement will provide insights into addressing challenges in the following key areas: maritime transportation and logistics, port development, marine security in the Gulf of Guinea, maritime environment issues, maritime training and education, and opening more potentials and solutions for addressing our present state, in the hope to draw useful decisions that will further benefit us as a country. Finally, I wish to express my appreciation to the organizers of this laudable vision for your support in the growth and development in the maritime sector. To this, I say thank you.
The public lecture was given by Her Excellency Ambassador Florentina Adenike Ukonga, the immediate past Executive Secretary, Gulf of Guinea Commission.
The purpose of World Maritime Day, to be celebrated this year on the 28th of September, is to highlight the maritime industry contribution towards world economy, especially shipping. Shipping, which is essentially transportation by water, is responsible to transport about 90% of world's goods, be it by big ocean liners across continents or by small boats and ferries in the shallow waters and inland waterways. MAPOL, which is the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, covers the prevention of pollution of the maritime environment by ships, whether from operational or accidental causes. A well-known adage says, prevention is better than cure. Hence, the IMO, that is the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, is right in attempting to set the standards for ships to prevent them from polluting the marine environment. Pollution of the marine environment does not come only from ships and other forms of vessels used for water transportation. There are other sources of maritime pollution. We have oil spill from oil rigs, burst pipelines during exploration and exploitation of oil and gas resources. Let us recall the Deepwater Horizon drilling rig, also referred to as the BP oil spill, which occurred on 20 April 2010 off the coast of the United States of America in the Gulf of Mexico on the BP Macondo prospect. It was considered the largest marine spill in the history of the petroleum industry. It lasted 4 months, 4 weeks, and 2 days. This disaster caused tremendous damage to both the marine environment and the livelihood of the people in the area and far beyond. Let us also recall the strict measures imposed by the United States government to compel the British Petroleum not only to clean up the pollution its chartered rig caused to the environment, but also to pay compensation to victims of the disaster who lost their means of livelihood as its result. In September 2014, a U.S. District Court judge ruled that BP was primarily responsible for the oil spill because of the gross negligence and reckless conduct in April, In April 2016, BP agreed to pay $20.8 billion in fines. As at 2018, cleanup costs, charges, and penalties had cost the company more than $65 billion US. The second cause of pollution: oil spills into rivers, bays, and the oceans most often are caused by accidents involving tankers, barges, pipelines. In some other cases, by breaks in aging or poorly maintained infrastructure. Other causes are vandalism, illegal oil refineries, crude oil theft, and sabotage, as in many incidents of oil spills in the Niger Delta of Nigeria. And let us recall also the serious degradation of the environment in Ogoliland as a result of decades of oil spill and other environmental degradation. I attended a conference organized by Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center recently, during which we were informed that there are more than 104 jobs that can be done in the maritime sector. From being ship owners, maritime institution owners, ship chandlers, port workers, to working in the ships as engineers, doctors, nurses, cooks. Women can also be in aquaculture as big trawler owners and fish processing factory owners, not only as sellers of fresh fish, frozen fish, roasted fish, or fish pepper soup. Women can also be encouraged to enlist more in the navies, the coast guards, and other maritime security agencies. What a man can do, a woman can do. I don't want to say better. Our young ladies have to be encouraged, even from secondary schools, to see the possibilities of careers in the maritime sector. Our men, too, should be encouraged to be agents of collaboration and not agents of discouragement to our women. I wish to express my appreciation to the organizers for the honor of choosing me to give the lecture at the 8th International Maritime Business to Business Conference and Exhibition of 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your rapt attention.
The conference also saw the conferment of Lifetime Achievement Awards on 2 distinguished personalities in the persons of Captain Emmanuel Iheanacho, a master mariner and key player in the maritime industry, who was the former Minister of Interior Affairs of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and he is currently the Executive Chairman, CEO of Integrated Oil and Gas Limited, Genesis Worldwide Shipping, a major independent shipping operator and national carrier.
Captain Iheanacho, on behalf of the Zoe Maritime organization, we present you with this Lifetime Award, Lifetime Achievement Award.
The second person conferred with a Lifetime Achievement Award is no other than Ambassador Florentina Adenike Ukonga, the former Executive Secretary of the Gulf of Guinea Commission. She served as the Undersecretary for African Affairs in charge of Nigeria's African bilateral and multilateral relations, political, economic, and diplomatic with African countries and African intergovernmental organizations. Law students from the University of Lagos who are doing excellently well were also introduced and handed over to maritime gurus to be mentored into the maritime industry. It is hoped and believed that by the next Lagos International Maritime Conference, there will be outstanding and resounding testimonies of their mentorship. The delegates and invited guests were taken round the exhibition booths. The sponsors and exhibitors include the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency (NIMASA), Lagos State Waterways Authority (LASWA), Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas (NLNG), Ship Management Limited (NSML), New Energy Services Company Limited (NESCO), Nigerian Shippers Council (NSC), YOA Insurance Brokers, Fitzwilliams Ventures, Cleaner Lancet Laboratories, SR Platforms Limited, and Lekki Deep Sea Ports.
They are not clean. They are not clean, and we are not seeing the effect of everybody that says we are clean. We are not seeing the clean. Okay, I am too. I did your where? Okay, that's my course. That's my first planning. Then I now did environmental planning. Okay.
I started working in the maritime sector in 2000. Symposium that I organized we are sponsored by the NASA, and every Friday which is at the end of the NASA. He was seated in Abuja, but it's also very well connected. If you go back to 2000, there's a big 29 inches connected into this office. It was a British so
we have a case study of what you have actually done that someone can see. It's more effective than talking. Because if I tell you that go to Lekki Seaport, see the portion of this kilometers of water we have cleaned, and this is what we are doing right now, it's because we've done a lot of talk. We've done a lot of paperwork, and the work we want to do is not on the paper. We want to do real life effects. So if you have that, you don't need to sell yourself. You just say, sir, please, you can send the monitoring team to go to this area. And for the past 3 years, we have been doing this. We want to know if it's actually impacting the economy in any way, and what are the other prospects? What are the other things we can do to get young people more interested, like they are doing? That's one of the examples. Getting mentors to guide them and to inform them that it's quite an interesting sector to be in. So that's one of them. And but how do we sensitize other youths and teenagers that there is room here for you to learn, there is room here for you to participate and develop a career? So those are the other things we should look out for. Because there's room for job creation, job employment, to get people in. And that improves our economy. So that's the area we're looking at. That's why I'm so concerned about the seafarers. I think this is working.
Thank you so much, madam. And I think for us, the creation of the Marine and Maritime Ministry is really a step in the right direction.
The first day had 3 roundtable discussions with plenary sessions for questions and answers. The first roundtable discussion was moderated by Vice Admiral Retired Dele Ezeoba, former Chief of Naval Staff, Nigerian Navy. The session focused on pollution from the ships and security in the Gulf of Guinea.
Now the topic under discourse says, from what I have on the program, says pollution and maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea. I'd like to observe that the lead paper presented by Her Excellency Ambassador was explicit enough in setting the stage or the building block that will help us to further develop incisive understanding of what the issues are. But then again, what is most important is that security of the maritime space is as good as what we want it to be. Because if there are challenges in the maritime space, it borders more on our actions or inactions on land. Because the space is there, nobody walks on water. The only time I hear that somebody walked on water was Jesus Christ in the scriptures. So, whatever happens out there is a fundamental outcome of our actions or inactions on land. So if we manage ourselves properly and put very concrete and robust regulatory framework that will help us to mitigate what I call estate management of the maritime space, then we will have less issues of pollution and the attendant challenges. So with these few remarks, I'd like to add that I would allow the panelists to give us their views. I want to start with the Chief Security Officer of the Maritime Space, which is the Chief of Naval Staff, ably represented by the Flag Officer commanding Western Naval Command, Rear Admiral Abdullahi. And thereafter, I will go to the Executive Secretary of the Gulf of Guinea Commission, who incidentally has the responsibility with regards to the political definition and custodian of the Gulf of Guinea maritime space, going by the status of the Gulf of Guinea Commission. So we'll go in that order so that we can hear their views. And then, of course, we'll take it from there further to understand what we're going to do. And then, of course, after that, I will allow the audience to give their perspective. And then, in sum, I will cap it up, and then we'll call it a day. So with these few remarks, I'd like to yield the microphone to the Chief of Naval Staff, ably represented by the Flag Officer commanding Western Naval Command. Over to you, sir.
So I'll try to give our take from the security background, being the lead agency in the maritime security. So the topic is pollution from ships and security in the Gulf of Guinea, challenges and solution. So to discuss this topic, I will first of all start by giving a brief background about the subject matter, that is the Gulf of Guinea, and all the variables that are in the topic. The Gulf of Guinea stands as a dynamic epicenter in the global energy sector, exerting pivotal influence on the economic development of numerous nations along the Atlantic coast of Africa. The region's revenue from hydrocarbons serves as a vital financial foundation for diverse development endeavors. The Gulf of Guinea spans approximately about 3,240 nautical miles, which is approximately about 6,000 kilometers in metrics. And this expansive maritime domain has for centuries served as a vital crossroads for global trade and commerce. Its intricate network of vibrant trade routes has facilitated the movement of goods, people, and ideas, connecting Africa to the world and fostering economic growth on both continental and international scales. Moreover, the Gulf of Guinea is a treasure trove of natural wealth. Its water teems with diverse marine life, making it one of the world's most abundant fisheries. The bountiful catches of fish and seafood provide sustenance to millions of people in the coastal communities, supporting livelihoods and ensuring food security across the region. Furthermore, beneath its azure surface, the Gulf conceals valuable offshore oil and gas reserves, which have become a cornerstone of the energy industry and a source of revenue for many of the countries bordering its shores. Notably, over the years, the Nigerian Navy, in collaboration with regional partners, has undertaken commendable efforts to address the security challenges related to the Gulf of Guinea, demonstrating a commitment of safeguarding the region's waters and maritime interests. This maritime force, equipped with diverse fleet and skilled personnel, has been at the forefront of efforts to safeguard the region's waters and maritime interests. The Nigerian Navy has conducted numerous patrols and operations aimed at curbing piracy, armed robbery at sea, and illegal fishing activities, which have threatened the safety and economic prosperity of the Gulf of Guinea. So, having given this background, I think it's important to also state that the Gulf of Guinea grapples with a distinctive set of security challenges. Acts of piracy and armed robbery at sea have become all too common, undermining the safety of maritime trade routes and endangering the lives of seafarers. Illicit fishing activities strip the Gulf of its precious fish stocks, exacerbating food security concerns. So this climate of insecurity not only disrupts the regional stability, but also deters potential investment and partnership that could otherwise drive sustainable development for the region. Thus, that is why I believe this seminar too is organized to see how we can combat these challenges. Maybe way to address this pollution. One, we can do it by way of strengthening regulatory frameworks. I think the chairman mentioned it earlier during his remarks. I mean, the moderator mentioned it during his remarks. So it's one of the things that we are also recommending, that if we will be able to strengthen the regulatory frameworks, the coastal states must strengthen their legal frameworks and enforcement mechanisms to deter ship-related pollution. This includes imposing strict penalties for illegal discharges and reinforcing compliance with international regulations, such as the type we have International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships. Also, collaborative efforts like that of the Regional Maritime Pollution Emergency Response Center for the Mediterranean Sea should be replicated in the Gulf of Guinea region. Regional agreement can facilitate coordinated responses to pollution incidents and harmonize regulations. That is one. Number two, enhance monitoring and surveillance. There is the need to implement satellite-based monitoring system to track vessels movement, identify potential pollution incidents, and enhance surveillance efforts across vast maritime territories. Also, government could strengthen port state control measures to inspect vessels for compliance with pollution prevention regulations, ensuring that ships entering the Gulf of Guinea adhere strictly to environmental standards. And lastly, we can do that by building capacity. That's local capacity. Member states must have to invest in training programs for maritime personnel, focusing on pollution prevention and response techniques. Educate coastal communities about the importance of preserving the marine environment. Additionally, there is a need for relevant stakeholders to establish waste reception facilities in ports and coastal areas to facilitate responsible waste disposal by ships. So this is our recommendation to combat that. And also addressing the challenges in the Gulf of Guinea, our recommendations is that tackling security challenges in the Gulf of Guinea requires comprehensive approach to promote stability and safeguard maritime interest. Key measures are, one, we must have to enhance maritime security operations. That is, coastal states should bolster their naval and coast guards capability to conduct regular patrols and deter piracy, armed robbery, and illegal fishing. Furthermore, there is a need to strengthen regional cooperation among Gulf states to share intelligence, conduct joint operations, and coordinate responses to security threats. Number two, socioeconomic development. As we are all aware, most of these things were spanned due to poverty, underdevelopment, and lack of respect for bad governance. In fact, to cut it short, that is the main reason why most of these things spring up. So governments must invest in socioeconomic development programs in coastal communities. Okay, that is crucial to addressing root causes of insecurity and reduce reliance on criminal activities. Government should provide alternative livelihood opportunities such as vocational training and employment to discourage participation in illegal activities. That's recommendation number two. And lastly, we have recommendation like regulation and legal frameworks. Various maritime stakeholders need to work together, develop and enforce maritime laws and regulations that address piracy, illegal fishing, and other maritime crimes, ensuring legal consequences for offenders. So with this one, I think if we are able to do it jointly, all the member states, starting from that Senegal up to the Angola, all the countries that make up this Gulf of Guinea, will address the pollution, come up with good frameworks and good policies, and come up with good strategy for effective implementation of this policy to combat all these threats that are facing the security in the maritime domain. Then that is when we can say we are addressing security. Pollution is just one of the, factor. There are other factors, but since the topic talks about pollution, I will just restrict myself to this. So this brings me to the end of my own intervention. I thank you for listening.
For the theme for this year, which is pollution by ships, and you put a rider for our invitation, what is the Commission, Gulf of Guinea Commission, doing about it? So we listen to all the problems and all the efforts, particularly by the Nigerian Navy, There is no doubt that the Nigerian Navy is making humongous investments in the area of maritime security, especially securing the Nigerian waters. But if you look at the waters we are discussing, look at the whole of the Atlantic, for example, and then the South Atlantic, and then the region from Angola, from Senegal in the north, plus Cape Verde, all the way down to Angola. These are Western countries, areas in West Africa, areas in East Africa, and then Angola itself. It's debatable. Is Angola in Central Africa or in Southern Africa? It's actually Southern Africa. So you see the challenge we have there. So all these efforts by the Navy are within the Nigerian territorial waters. So what should the Gulf of Guinea do? Gulf of Guinea Commission do? ECOWAS is concerned with the West African region. The Economic Community of Central African States concerned with its own sphere of influence. But now you have a Gulf of Guinea like a common denominator, the Commission itself, which has to be responsible for the large expanse of land. You can imagine from Lagos to Abuja is about 800 plus kilometers. So try to imagine 6,000 kilometers of land, not of water, not land. You know, and how is this going to be administered? You can imagine the type of technologies that need to be adapted, kind of know-how that needs to be adapted to guarantee its safety and security. It goes into all kinds of coastal area, all kinds of tributaries. And then the ships that ply there, both military vessels, commercial vessels. And this is the area where I want to thank Mr. Zoe Maritime Resources for bringing up this issue of pollution now. You are introducing something that has always been there, but a new dimension. It brings, do we have strategies like for emergency preparedness? Yes, seaworthy vehicles need to meet some benchmarks to be able to sail. And there is also insurance. The end users, the industries have to guarantee all that. But again, imagine that one or two vessels were to have an accident, and imagine that these vessels were barges carrying oil. Or for example, that is pollution. What about, I've heard about industrial waste and rest of, what about radioactive material? Dumping of nuclear waste, for example. Do we have a governance structure in this region to safeguard against all those things? So that is where the commission now comes in. What are the two key components of the aims and objectives of the commission? Keep the region safe and secure, one, and two, exploit the deep sea resources for the well-being and prosperity of the states of the Gulf of Guinea region. So on that happy note, permit me to shut up and then listen to you in an interactive session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Gentlemen, I'm Comrade George Wilcox, the chairman of Abaditoro Community Development Initiative. So, sir, I want to use this medium to raise a motion that will bring about collaboration between we and the Nigerian Navy, as well as NIMASA and the rest, based on the 10th thematic section that talked about the roles of civil society in maritime security, as it were. So I would like to have your notes, the notes you read, because you have much on some topic, sensitive topic that I really want to work with in the course of our engagement as civil society for the coastal communities. Secondly, sir, a worrisome problem. EFCC, as it were, you even made mention of EFCC, any matter that had to do with economic crime will redirect it to EFCC. How about those stolen crude from an unidentified or registered vessels? Why don't the government find a better way to dispose those contents rather than blasting it off in the high sea? affecting our mangrove ecosystem that has so much vast economic value. When you talk about carbon decarbonization or carbon sequestration against climate change, it is there to defend us. When you talk about what is hindering the flood from the sea, the high sea, to invade or swallow or devalue our land, and as it were, Nigeria as a continent, as a country, that is the mangrove forest.
Okay, George.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I'd like to add that you have made very, very important contributions. Yours is a comment, so I will advise that please, as much as possible, whatever thoughts you have, put them together, go to the rapporteurs, and then develop the synergy between you and the panelists so that you can take further. All right?
My name is Lighton Williams. I'm the president of Ocean Ambassadors Foundation. It's a catch them young in the maritime industry for the upcoming generation. Rear Admiral, that your paper was bam. I give you more than 10 gusas. You really read my thought. Because you see, not all these youths will have the PhDs. But we now have to domesticate what is international, called maritime soft skills. These youths that you're looking at, they know about everything concerning the waters. But we need to domesticate it in such a way that they'll be able to add value to the community. That is number one. We're looking at the oil thefts. What stops the government? Because in advanced countries, these are the types of talents that they come up with. They can have a refineries for these children, where we have the bigger picture for them. It's all about putting food on the table. I want us, the government, to looking at the bigger picture as a global one, to the local domestication of all these things we're talking about. And lastly, I want us to have it that the Gulf of Guinea, there has been too many things said about it. And if you look at it holistically, it's all about the youths. Don't forget that these youths, they don't have to go to school before they can tell you when the tide is high. Let us, at this juncture, in particular when we're looking at the holistic blue economy, to have the Maritime Soft Skills Academy alongside maritime tourism, so that they'll be able to be useful to the communities. Thank you.
My name is Yvonne Ezekiel. I'm the managing partner of Olisagbakoba Legal. I just want to talk about...
Sorry, can you introduce yourself again, please?
Yvonne Ezekiel is my
Yvonne.
name.
Okay.
I want to refer to something the ambassador said. It's around the regulatory framework required to combat pollution. So I don't think we lack lots of laws across the member states that make up the Gulf of Guinea, but I just want to wonder why, pollution still seems to be a major problem. If we have all these international laws that we have to govern pollution, so why is pollution still a major problem for the states in Gulf of Guinea? And why is it that, like we said, Nigeria bears a lot of cost in terms of all these membership that we belong to, these treaties, and yet you said other countries benefit more from us. I'd like you to explain how that is possible, that other states benefit a lot more than Nigeria does, and yet Nigeria and Ghana bears a lot more in terms of the cost of running these organizations.
Thank you very much. But this is a process, an ongoing process. Because if we had overcome pollution in the atmosphere, maybe on land and in water, we won't be discussing today climate change and protection of the environment. So even now, emissions from vehicles, you see how much the Nigerian government, for example, has been struggling to limit the age of vehicles that can enter Nigeria. The same with the aircraft. So this is also true of this. The maritime sector is just like land or air. So we have to keep refining and making better these laws and the provisions that we have to work with to get there. And of course, every year there are meetings on climate change, and new targets are set. It will surprise you that for us in this part of the world even, what we contribute, carbon we contribute, or the emissions or pollutants, it's very infinitesimal. But here we are, we have to deal with the problem. It's also true of nuclear weapons. You and I didn't give the world nuclear weapons, nuclear technologies, but we have to deal with those regimes that govern acquisition of nuclear weapons, and even the efforts today to turn nuclear knowledge into civil technologies. Of course, you know that was how mobile telephony was born from the arming of the outer space. That's how we got those satellites there in the first place, and it has given us a civil technology. So some of those things are turned to civil uses. Even your telephones, you know, your telephones also emit and also pollute the environment. So it's a process that is continually going on. Now, the second part of your question dealt with why is Nigeria not benefiting so much against the other countries. I didn't say that, but we are not benefiting as much as we should benefit. Another classical example, if you take stock, look at the high level of competent young people who have. If you take stock of the Nigerians working in international organizations, vis-a-vis Kenya, Gambia, Senegal, Sierra Leone, it will surprise you. But we have employment for youth challenge. So what I do as political affairs in the Gulf of Guinea Commission is to, as much as possible, to spread their awareness in my own little way. And that is why when we got that invitation, I was very excited about it.
The reason, quite simply, was that we talked about the issue of lack of Nigerians being in international organization and positions. And I can only speak from my perspective. And I'm going to refer to Vice Admiral Dele Ezioba here, and he will remember quite clearly. And I'll give the example quite simply as an agency of NIMASA. If you will realize that except from the public service and whatever else, you find that Nigerians are not taking up international positions at international organizations. Why is that the case? It's not that we don't have the qualified Nigerians to do the job. It's because we have allowed nepotism and lack of professionalism to take over our professional organizations. Rather than putting professionals there, we are putting our relatives who are not qualified to be in certain positions. I'll give you a key example, and I need to see my Oga's face here while I'm saying this. You would remember, sir, when I was DG, you were on my board as DG NIMASA, representing then US CTOPS. And we decided at NIMASA at that time to restructure the place, to professionalize the place. And we developed what we call a new organogram, which will make NIMASA a professional organization to focus purely on its core functions. In doing so, we had a clear-cut job description and a career path for every single NIMASA staff from the day he comes in, and the training that he will get to get up to that position to possibly become a DG, so that DG can be developed from in-house being professionals. Sir, you remember that board meeting where I presented that? You were the only one who supported me. As a matter of fact, my chairman banged his hand on the table that this is totally unacceptable, we're not going to accept that. And I can tell you, since we presented that paper, NIMASA has never been restructured. Now, we cannot sit here and begin to look at the reality of things. That is the truth. People do not want a change, and a change will not happen unless we put round pegs into round holes, rather than putting people who do not know the head or tails about organizations. There are other areas you can put politicians, but there are certain organizations. It's just, I mean, our saving grace simply now is that we have not had a major disaster on our waters. The moment that happens, we are in a mess. If an Exxon Valdez accident happens in Nigeria, our ecosystem is dead.
You know, it is only when you go out and have an opportunity to sit in a gathering,
yes, sir,
and then you share ideas and thoughts with people, that is when you know how much people look up to this country to lead for shared prosperity.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much, sir.
We thank the organizers. Somebody is hungry. Our MC is hungry, wants to go for lunch. But we here, we are not hungry. We are ready to do justice to all of these. So please, let us live here today with a shared vision, a shared hope, and believe that each and every one of us seated here today have something to contribute to move this country forward. Don't get distracted. Don't get disappointed. Let's keep knocking on the door. Hopefully, one day, pretty soon though, we should be able to have that door open so that we can move to El Dorado. Thank you all, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
The second and third roundtable sessions were merged together and focused on marine environment, the effects of pollution from ships in the marine environment, and marine transportation, logistics, and port development. Issues on pollution from ships and consequences on cargo, wastewater, sea transportation, etc. were looked at. This roundtable discussion also had plenary sessions with questions and answers.
There's no gainsaying the fact that ships are very, very vital to the world economy, and just as important is the marine environment. So for the second panel, we are discussing the effects of pollution from ships on the marine environment. It's a case of two very important properties that we have causing problems on each other and how we can manage. So the panel will be discussing the effect and also suggestions of how the problem can be mitigated or prevented, how to help solve it.
I stand on all existing protocols. My name is Kashimana Tumba. I'm a partner at Tumba & Tumba Legal Practitioners. Thank you, Zoe Maritime, for having me and for having us and all the panelists here. Our panel, which is supposed to be the third, is going to be talking about marine transportation and pollution. And all the subjects are intertwined, which is why we're doing this together, and it will all flow quite easily. Mrs. Sheyi Oluyede, the MD of MBTC, is going to be presenting a short paper on ships and transportation pollution, but specifying on inland waterways. So she said
Okay, so in the second panel, we'll have Abdulkadiri K. Ahmed, the MD CEO of NLNG Shipping, speak about cleaner oceans, waterways, and the NLNG Shipping initiatives. Thank you.
The topic today is quite apt, and the theme, which is around MARPOL at 50, is really very apt in the sense that MARPOL in itself, as has been mentioned earlier in the morning by the speaker, was a convention brought about by IMO to guide and govern the operations of ship, preventing pollution at sea. As she mentioned, it does have 6 annexes covering all aspects from oil pollution right down to environmental emission pollution as well. So for us in NSML, bearing in mind that our vessels essentially go all over the world, we've essentially have had to not just simply adopt those conventions, but equally find ways and means to, one, comply with them. And compliance here isn't just simply about complying with regulation. It's about ensuring that you own it, recognizing the impetus of those conventions. Because ultimately, our marine and ocean resources are very important, and thus require us to effectively manage it to ensure that our operations is done in a sustainable manner. IMO's convention, both, the two most important conventions as far as I'm concerned, MARPOL and SOLAS, is really around talking about the sustainable use of ocean resources as well as safety at sea. And that's quite critical in terms of a shipping company like ourselves. And how have we done that? So in a practical way, and maybe I'll just enumerate a few of the activities that we do on the NSML. I think the first part of it is really, first of all, understanding the extent of those conventions, what those conventions requires. Okay, that's the first part. The second element of it, and because again, this regulation are also evolving, is wherever you then find changes with regards to those conventional annexes, then you need to find a way of retrofitting your vessels to ensure they comply.
I'll paraphrase on essentially what we do at NBTC. NBTC is Niger Benue Transport Company Limited. It's a company that was incorporated in 1959, and we're 63 years old, essentially, pre-Nigeria, pre-independence, let me put it that way, and been operating continuously since that time. Our business is majorly inland water navigation and shipbuilding, ship repairs. And over time, we've seen a whole lot of things metamorphose in this space. I mean, Nigeria as a country, in regards to maritime, has developed, has evolved in various ways, from being agrarian to coming into oil and gas, and now we're talking about pollution, which seems to be majorly a problem that comes from a blessing, in a way. Now, a lot of emphasis is being made on solid waste, which is plastic pollution and the likes, but then you still also have some other types of pollution in the waters, which essentially are water, sewage treatments. You have the sewage, you have the oil spills, as we all know, and then the blamed water. For us as a company, because we have tugboats that ply these inland waterways, and the inland water is very, very important for the economic survival of a lot of states that have them, in the sense that they're used for the intermodal transportation, and they are also a source of livelihood to all the communities and coastal areas in that regard. So we, as a collective, and I know Nigeria is trying with MARPOL and all to put a regulatory framework around pollution. It has to be very deliberate. It has to come to a point where we stop putting lip service on this and actually actualize what's to be done and the effect of pollution on the marine economy, on the water economy, and the effects generally on what is going on with our biological elements in the water. So really, just to paraphrase, there's so many other types of pollution apart from plastics, the oil spill, you have the sewage water. What we would say is we need to come up with ideas in terms of water treatment. We need to come up with ideas in how to ensure rules are being followed. For polluters who are polluting, put in framework for them to pay. There are also other pollution. You have the water essence, yes, biological, but then there's also a way that is also affecting things. And shipwreck. Thankfully, NIMASA is doing a lot of things in that regard, and I think in collaboration with NIWA, they're trying to bring out all the wrecks along our waterways, and we see that going on, and we applaud them for what they are doing in that area.
So I would like to ask a couple of questions, just starting with Mrs. Luyede, and I think this will give her an opportunity to go deeper into what she has discussed. I noticed from your paper that you said MBTC is involved in the construction of tugs, boats, and passenger boats for inland transport. Are these done locally? And what has been your experience in the area of dredging, financing, and safety, having done business in the industry? I see that you have a background in economics, so this will be something that comes easily to you.
So our passenger boats, which are the GRP boats, glass fiber boats, are done locally. You know, for the tugboats, when we started, at the time when we started, we were importing tugboats. But now the tugboats are being built locally in our yard, in addition to the barges. So those are things that we do over time, and in doing that, we have our own structure to it.
Okay, then MPA will be telling us about MPA's role in the prevention of pollution from ships.
To do a little background of where we are coming from, I believe that most of us, we have conversant with what happened in 1988 concerning the cocoa toxic waste incident. I'm sure that a lot of us are aware of that, of what happened. I won't go into details because of a time constraints, but going directly to what our role is presently, it is the provision of ship port reception facilities for management of ship-generated waste. You know, somebody talked about the problem of waste-generated oily waste, and I want to make bold to tell you that when it comes to ships that are calling within our jurisdiction, we've been able to do so much, you know, to make sure that those wastes do not find their way back into the marine environment. And to tell you what, now, you know, we are talking about waste to wealth. People are now more aware that those wastes that are being generated on board the vessels are, you know, most times you'll be able to turn them into wealth and not just, you know, disposing them just like that. Where we have problems sometimes are with some of the local boats and fishing boats and those ones that are not conventional, that will find it difficult to you know, enforce compliance. They are not mainly within our jurisdiction. But just to digress a little, by and large, most of the pollution you see in our waters, they originate from sources that I would rather term, you know, to be from the municipal sources. Because the ships and then all the other crabs, they've been able to manage their waste appropriately, and we provide the facilities to take up this waste and then recycle them, the ones that are recyclables, and those ones that will just need ultimate disposal, then we will treat them accordingly. If you look at MAPOL has about 6 annexes now. I don't want to go into ballast water because that is also another aspect which we are equally dealing with. Annex 1 is on oil. And then the beauty of it also is that the vessels that are coming into our ports, we have what we call a provisional bills, whereby before coming, they pay for these services. It is only when we don't render the services that then they can request for refunds. So knowing fully well that you have already paid for the services, you will be eager to make sure that they are being rendered. So in the ports, you know, all the ports within the nation, 6 ports for Lagos, Port Harcourt, Warri, Calabar, and then One, we have facilities at all the port locations to be able to manage this waste, you know, appropriately. Initially we were doing that on our own as an organization, but we found out that at a point there will be need to inject private funds into managing this aspect of our business. So that informed our resolve through the approval of the federal government to engage a company, maybe most of you have heard about, that is African Circle Pollution Management Limited. So we work in conjunction, you know, with them. They are providing and managing the waste reception facilities for us at all the port locations. So we have facilities for Annex 1, which is on oil, Annex 2 for harmful substances, you know, in liquid form, and then the harmful substances in package form, they don't require reception facilities. And then it's also Annex 4, and then Annex 5, which is on garbage, and then also Annex 6.
Enitan Sholarin will be the Managing Director of YOA Insurance. Will be talking to us about insurance of oil tankers and risk management strategies for preventing pollution. Thank you very much.
My name is Bolanle Anjori, and I'm representing my Managing Director, Mrs. Enitan Sholarin. Now, for the purpose of this, our discussion, I will focus more on the protection and indemnity insurance. And just to start off, Her Excellency in our initial lecture talked about British Petroleum and the amount they paid for the Gulf of Mexico incident. Transocean was also involved. They were the owners of the rig, which was Deepwater Horizon. Now, even though British Petroleum paid about 20 billion plus as compensation and fines and all that, it is interesting to note also that from the insurance aspect, the P&I insurance also paid about 2 billion for compensation, $2 billion in compensation for this particular incident. Another major incident that has occurred, over the past decade is also the Exxon Valdez, which the former DG of NIMASA mentioned. And the P&I insurance also paid about $1 billion as well for that incident. So the question is insurance relevant, and does it work? Does it pay? And the answer is yes. So to focus more on the protection and indemnity insurance, so the option to have mutual clubs, which are the international group, about the 12 P&I clubs, right? There are also other providers, which are the fixed premium providers within that space. Now, the difference is just that for the mutual clubs, the ship owner will be a member of that club. For the fixed premium providers, you don't need to be a member, and the cost of insurance for fixed premium providers are very reasonable and way lower than what you have with the P&I clubs. So what does, as it relates to pollution and MARPOL 7378 that we're discussing under the P&I insurance, what does it say? Now, I will focus more on the pollution aspect, which has to do with the cost, cleanup cost for accidental discharge of oil and other pollutants, as prescribed under the MARPOL Convention. It also has to do with the cost of minimizing, a likely spill or pollution event that may occur, and also cost of complying with regulations. But what the P&I will not pay will be any fine or penalties that the insured incurs as a result of violation with the MARPOL 7378 Convention. And it is interesting to know that P&I clubs and providers, they work closely with the IMO organization, meaning that they understand the various conventions or the protocols required, and as a result are able to provide coverage that will align with those various conventions. And apart from the MARPOL, we have the Nairobi Convention for the removal of wreck, the civil liability, and all that. So, going to risk management, to the risk management aspect, will be that what does the ship owner have to do to be able to prevent, to minimize a loss? And the key area of this, I will look at it from the perspective of prevention, preparedness, and response. These are three key things that we'll look at in the risk management. And when it comes to prevention, a major issue that comes to mind is the classification. Now, for major underwriters, whether in the P&I club or the hull and machinery underwriters, they will look at the fact that is the vessel or the FPSO, is it classed? Is it in class, basically? And this classification is done by classification bodies. You have the likes of DNV, ABS, various classification bodies, and this process of classification goes through a rigorous process, right, to ensure that, you know, there are proper quality checks in place, as it's a comprehensive survey, you know, so what can go wrong, what is not in the right place, everything should be fixed. So I would just encourage NEMASA to ensure that the various ship owners and, you know, the likes comply with the various requirements. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the paper on insurance. That is very interesting, that insurance is such a key part of shipping. And it reminded me of the fact that we once had a case where the insurer, the ship owner had paid, you know, got an insurance cover, and then came to Nigerian waters and was involved in a breach. And this breach involved paying tax. And then when the vessel got arrested, then the insurer said they were not going to pay the cover because they said you are in breach of the terms of your insurance contract, so you are not entitled to be covered by us. Why am I talking about this? We have a tax expert here who will also want to make some comments on taxation and shipping in a digital economy.
Digital economy. Of course, with the development around technology, economic activities are now conducted online seamlessly without physical involvement. We can always do transaction without having physical connection. At the comfort of our offices, at the comfort of our homes, we can initiate transactions and we get delivery. Now, it's important to know that there are challenges around digital economy in terms of taxing those activities. Now, let me narrow it down to international shipping company. From experience, of course, these entities, these bodies, these operators, they've operated along the Nigerian waterways, but when it comes to fulfilling the obligations to the Nigerian government, is as good as nothing. In recent time, just last month, August to be precise, the Federal Inland Revenue Service released a circular on the need for international shipping companies to come and regularize their tax record with respect to filing their returns, registering for those who have not registered, paying taxes where applicable, and the likes. I need to mention this, that some of us will be wondering that our international shipping companies, are they liable to tax in Nigeria? There are regulations that support that. For example, we have the company income tax. We have Section 9 of the company income tax that talks about profit that is subject to tax. We have Section 13 talking about companies liable to tax in Nigeria. We have Nigerian companies, and we also have companies other than Nigerian companies. So in that case, we are looking at non-resident companies. We also have Section 30, which talks about deemed profit or deemed income. So where we have companies who are operating in Nigeria where they've refused to disclose their books, the Federal Inland Revenue Service can actually use deemed profit approach based on their own understanding of their operations, and they give them taxes, which FRS has been doing in recent time. We also have the Value-Added Tax Act with respect to vatable transactions that occur that is carried out by the international shipping companies. We have the significant economic presence order where if we have transactions that are basically conducted around the digital economy, those are transactions that are not physical in nature. We have the SCP order that also addresses that captures that. Now, what are the responsibilities of international shipping companies? Like I said, Section 13 of CETA make provisions for companies that are taxable. 1, Nigerian company. 2, companies other than Nigerian. So companies other than Nigerian companies are basically non-resident companies. International shipping companies are non-resident companies. Non-resident companies are companies that have legal status of another, that are registered in other foreign countries. They are not registered in Nigeria in terms of CAC registration and the likes, but they are recognized as far as tax is concerned. So for tax, they have obligations. In terms of registration with CAC, they don't have obligation. Government needs money. Modern government needs money. So everyone has a role to play. International shipping companies are not exempted from this obligation. Thank you.
And I'd like to move to Ms. Urogama Ugbefun. She's a chip of the old block, following in her father's footsteps. sure she's tired of hearing that. She's the managing director of STARS Investments and Engineering. I would like to ask her one or two questions on the issue of pollution. I see that part of the things under her oversight is the company has a fleet of 11 ships that service the IOCs. And I would like to ask, back to the topic of pollution, what is one of the most challenging aspects of playing that role in this industry? And what's a strategic, hands-on way you think that problem can be solved?
So as a ship owner, what would we see as a biggest challenge for us? I think the real management of waste. I was really interested in the conversation that the MPA representative was having about the role of MPA in handling waste, ship-generated waste in all the various ports in the country. I found it very interesting that it's only one company that is effectively driving that, and I'm wondering how efficient it would be. I mean, I'm just trying to run one company in one state in Nigeria, and God knows how difficult it is, not to talk of managing the number of ports that exist effectively. So definitely I'm sure that there will be cracks, and we see them. If you go around the waterways in just around Lagos, you would see what I'm talking about in terms of plastic waste, and I want to focus on plastic waste. I find that plastic waste is one of the biggest challenges because we consume a lot of products that are packaged in plastic form, and I don't think that we're doing enough to implement any sort of roadmap that shows us how we take that waste, dispose of it properly, whether it's converting it to reusable material, like you mentioned, waste to wealth, or just, bringing it back to form that the earth can absorb without damage. And from a ship owner's perspective, and let me just speak about my company, having identified that we're consuming a lot of plastic products, we decided to stop supplying our vessels with bottled water because there's a temptation. We're not out there with the crew. We can't really attest to their full compliance to the rules and regulations of our SMS, to be fully guided. So to just be sure that we're trying as much to contribute to the reduction, we installed water dispensers in all our vessels. So all our assets that go offshore have water dispensers, and that's cut our plastic consumption by over 80%. And I found it very commendable for us because we needed to do a lot of sensitization, awareness. The crew needed to understand why they could no longer have the ease of just having plastic bottles that they're consuming, on a daily basis. So we've equipped them. So so it tells me about when you're driving this sort of campaign or change, that you want to first of all sensitize, you want to educate. So we had to educate our workforce as to why we want to be environmentally responsible beyond just having it in our mission statement. And then we had to equip them. So it's one thing to have a nice fancy chat and have series of meetings and engagements. Next thing is to now equip so that they can comply. So you take away the bottled water, you give them dispensers, but they also need it to be mobile in some way, right? I'm working in the engine room, the dispenser is situated above me in the mess. I need to be able to still drink my water while I'm in my engine room and keep it. So we supply them with bottles, plastic bottles that they can keep using and reusing, branded with the company logo. And of course, we've seen that that's helped us even with because now we're tracking our carbon and what we're contributing in terms of carbon emissions, because our clients require it and it's gradually cascading down the line. So the day is coming, I think I call it the day of reckoning, where we might think that as typical Nigerians, you get away with a lot of things. But you see, because the international regulations are beginning to catch up with our clients, and then the clients are beginning to come down to their subcontractors, and those subcontractors are coming down to subcontractors. And we are contractors and we have subcontractors. So very soon, it will not even be a case of the Nigerian government coming down on you. It's going to be a case of business need requiring that you align with, environmental standards and regulations?
So I notice your qualifications and your experience in the port in terms of management and technical aspects of managing things. And I'm very aware that she was speaking about vessels. And when I think about the port, sometimes I think, okay, you have a car, you have somewhere where you park it or something. And okay, there are these vessels, and then we have these ports where all this offloading, loading is going on, and there's a lot of operations happening there. And I'm wondering, in this day and age, what are the ways in which we've thought about optimizing things such that pollution is at a very minimal stage? What's a very strategic way of addressing these issues?
The topic is MAPO at 50. Our commitment continues. That's IMO. I believe that even as Nigerians, we should be looking forward and not looking behind, talking about the strategies. Let me mention that I'm a marine engineer, and I have sailed in some international waters. I've also been privileged to sail in Nigerian coast. About 10 years ago, batting at a port in Malabo, I saw a lot of liters of sachet water. This is what we call pure water. And in town in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, they don't have sachet water. They only have bottled water. They don't manufacture, they don't package water in a sachet. So how did these sachet waters get to Malabo? Obviously, it is from the big brother, Nigeria. Looking at the trend is evolving policy. We need to have dynamic policies that are evolving based on research, based on feedback. Somebody going to AYZ have been given assignments to manage the wastes, whether liquid waste from operations or the waste from the vessels, to find out what quantity have you collected today, last month, is it increasing, decreasing? For me, strategically, we need to handle it by, first of all, finding out where we are, and if at all we're improving. If we are not improving, what else do we do? Are the regulations effective? Enforcement. For us to continue, as IMO is saying, we are looking forward. We need to, we want to ensure greater commitment by looking at what we have done with the existing policies and ensuring that we can see the gaps and improve on our existing regulations. Also, culture need to change. So, as a seaman, I can assure you that many of us on board will feel that, the ocean is the world. So, if you throw one plastic, it doesn't make a difference. But one plastic from one vessel and another plastic from, if you have, we know that we have thousands of vessels in the waters. If one vessel is dropping one plastic a day, and you can multiply it times 365 days, how many plastic we have? So change of culture, both at shore, among the communities living in the riverine area, and also those that are on board the vessel. So our policy should include educating the port users as well as the vessel operators, the seamen that are on board. Pollution, we cannot talk about pollution control without technology. So in developed countries such as Port of Antwerp, drones are being deployed to monitor vessel operations and to see if someone is dumping waste from the vessel or there is operational waste. And now I come to the topic of enforcement. So most of our regulations are very good, but enforcement stands out to be a problem. So the way going forward strategically is to improve on our method of enforcing existing regulations for pollution control. And if by deploying very expensive technology to deploy, but over the years, the government or the Port of Antwerp that invest in such expensive technology will regain the fund, because if you violate this policy and the drones or the existing cameras confirm that you are the one, you are going to pay a reasonable amount of fine, which will compel you to enforce it among your team and insist that your safety management system on board your vessel is being implemented as required by IMO. Of course, MAPO is part of the safety management system. So deployment of technology is a way to go in Nigerian ports. And enforcement of existing regulations, looking back to how effective our existing regulations have gone. So we evolve the regulations, make it dynamic, see the loopholes, and close the loopholes so that our oceans can be clean. If the offenders know that they will go away with the offense, they will continue to dump waste in the waters because, okay, nobody saw me and that's it.
Yeah, when the MD of STARS was speaking, she made mention of plastics in Nigerian waters and also wondered what MPA or maybe any of the regulatory authorities were doing about it. And I think like her and myself too, would like to hear, since we have MPA here, to tell us what they are doing about it, since they're here and they can answer for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've been very eager to correct this impression that most of the plastics you see in our waters are from ships. I make bold to say, from those conventional vessels, the plastics you are seeing are not from them. They are not from them. And that was why I mentioned, my presentation was very brief. There was no time, to go through the gamut of what we have been doing. But I make bold to say that most of those, almost every conventional vessel that comes into our ports, we render those services. And to even encourage them, we took a proactive measure by making sure that you pay for these services before you even come to the port. So as a matter of fact, they will even want us to insist that what they are paid for, that we'll have to respond and then, render those services. Most of the plastic you are seeing in the water, they are from the municipal sources. Until we are able to get it right, to manage our waste, from the communities and the municipal areas, you continue to see this waste in our waters.
I would like to ask a question about water hyacinth. It seems as if they come in seasonally. Around December, you see them all everywhere is covered. And I don't know whether they are cleared. And if they are cleared, where are they dumped? And why do they keep on coming back every year? So I'm just curious. I would like to know where they come from and how do they get rid of them in our waters?
On the issue of whether they are being cleared or not, we have a project, which is more of a CSR project that we do within our own jurisdiction. Even now, just this morning before I started coming here, I sent out some of my officers to go to Tinkan, because within a particular area we call the Finger Jetty at Tinkan, the quantity of water hyacinth there was really a big concern. So we decided now this morning to organize to make sure that we go there and clear that particular location. Unfortunately, that location is an area of enhanced collection because of the design, that once the water hyacinth, they are flowing and other debris, they get trapped at that particular location. So if you go there now, after clearing in the morning, by the time you return in the evening, you will still see a lot of water hyacinth within that area. So the ones we cleared last year, they are not the same one you are seeing this year.
It's a hazard, actually. The other day I was taking a speedboat boat, and I know how we were trying our best to navigate around it. So, and it's quite dangerous. But one thing is for sure, it's seasonal. The other thing is that there are strategies available, biological strategies that can be deployed to actually reduce them significantly. So they come naturally. It's a natural plant. Maybe there's something in our waterways that encourages the growth, but it's not only peculiar to Nigeria. It can be found in other African countries and their waterways. So I think, still coming back to technology.
My name is Adewale Lawa. I work as a sustainability consultant at Maza in Nigeria. My own is a way of contribution. At the same time, I'm going to be asking Dr. Ambrose some questions, because I noticed that you mentioned something about sustainability, about the ports, what you're trying to do. But I would like to know, the best thing is that if you are thinking of sustainability, do we really have a strategy, sustainability strategy? Do we align it with our organizational vision, mission, and our goals and our organizational objectives? Because that is a great starting point. Most of the time we say that we are doing sustainability. Have we tried to look at it in terms of our strategy? What strategy do we have? It goes beyond having a policy. You have a sustainability policy in place. Do you also have a policy, a strategy for effective implementation of your policy? So, which is very critical. I would like to ask Dr. Ambrose Ogogun about, maybe is there a strategy that guides your sustainability plan, or you are doing in terms of how you are developing ports? What do you think? And do you have a strategy to start with?
The ports and the new ports development is in conjunction with the federal government. Public-private partnership. And the federal government is providing the policy framework to support the private sector to thrive. Regarding your question, so the new ports have the mixture of organization, private sectors that are business oriented, at the same time that are aware of the trend of what is acceptable worldwide to attract customers to their ports. They need to operate at such a level of being seen as compliance to international regulations of the IMO and the local regulations. So if we talk about sustainability, in terms of Nigeria, we can think of solar panels to support port operations and vessels using putting off their generators instead of emitting more carbon into the atmosphere while in port. They utilize the shore-based energy supplied from renewable energy sources such as solar panels. For Europe and in Port of Antwerp, you can see in the port wind farms which are part of the port community. So for us, we have enough sun, and we can adapt solar panels that can support port operations, and we have enough gas. LNG can educate us in that side. Gas is also a useful option to support our ports operations instead of depending on running individual terminal operators, running generators to power their superstructures and office complex and warehouses.
An issue we have, which continues to be a source of concern for me, has to do with the issue of bunker fuel. Unfortunately, I mean, it's a battle I'm having with NMDPRA. Under the PIA, they inherited a policy which allowed them to provide licenses for bunkering. And I always say bunkering is not an illegal word. It's fueling of vessels. Now, the IMO made regulation. There's a regulation of the sulfur content, which is to be on the fuel. Now, the beauty about the Nigerian crude oil is that Nigerian crude oil is the best because of its very low sulfur content. But by virtue of our failure to operate refineries in Nigeria, let me tell you what happens. We ship our best crude oils to refinery internationally, and then they send us back their dirty bunkers, which comes into Nigeria. So what happens is that we have crude oil, which we give, good crude oil we give to the world, and what they do, they shift back crude oil or bunker fuels, which has high level of lead contents and also sulfur contents. Now, the challenge I also face with us here in Nigeria is that we have modular refineries that produces purely bunker fuels, LPFO, that meets that requirement, and AGO that meets that requirement. But the challenge we face is that our same Nigerian refuse to give crude oil to those local refineries to process that fuel to give to our Nigerian so that we can develop a bunker market. So really and truly, and the challenge I face is that the worst enemy Nigeria has are Nigerians. Thank you.
I must say, at least I'm sure you will agree with me that the caliber of speakers we have, they've done justice to the two topics or all the topics that they were invited to speak on, and now invite us to please give them another round of applause, please. A worthy round of applause.
The second day kicked off with a roundtable session on women in maritime, which focused on women and marine pollution. It was moderated by Ramatu Karibimina, current Assistant PRO of Women International Shipping and Trading Association, Western Nigeria. The panelists include Mrs. Eunice Ezeoke, President of Women International Shipping and Trading Association, Western Nigeria, Mrs. Rollins McFoy, President, Women in Maritime Africa, Nigeria, and Engineer Oluwadamilola Ade, Vice President, Female Seafarers Association of Nigeria, ably represented by Mrs. Lois Unjoko. It also had a plenary session for questions and answers.
It's a pleasure to moderate today's session. And my name is Ramatu Karibimina. I'm the Assistant PRO of Women in International Shipping and Trading Association and the Managing Partner for Media Extraordinaire. You can see my team on ground covering today's event. And so I have the privilege to moderate today's session on women in maritime. And the topic is women and marine pollution. Not to waste much time, we're going to start off with Madam Eunice Ezeoke. Please, can you just give us a brief about WISTA Nigeria? What is WISTA all about? A little overview, your mission, your vision, your objectives.
Thank you very much. WISTA, as I've said earlier, is an acronym for Women's International Shipping and Trading Association. It was formed in 1974. However, it came into Nigeria in 1992, and since then it is targeted at women in the maritime sector. Women in as you know, maritime covers a host of other areas of profession. Women working in the port industry, women working in the shipping industry, women working in the banks, maritime lawyers, freight forwarders, insurance brokers, ship brokers, and a host of other professions that has to do with the maritime industry. Western Nigeria since 1992, when it came to Nigeria, have been growing in leaps and bounds, and it is targeted to bridge the gender gap in leadership positions, not just in the maritime industry, but in the leadership positions in this industry. We have transcended the area of just working in the industry. We want to occupy the boardrooms. We want to occupy the chief executive officers. It is sad that anything that has to do with women, many people will not be available. They will treat it with a wave of hand. The days have arrived when women need to take their places. Western Nigeria has been targeted to bridge these gender gaps in leadership positions. And they've been doing this by promoting visibility for women in the maritime industries, engaging in education, training, sensitization, sponsorships, mentorships, encouraging women, the seafarers, the port industry workers, and also helping women in the maritime academies to get sea time and also offering scholarships. Furthermore, we also help women in the coastal areas. We do this by providing fishing boats and accessories to help them in their fishing businesses. Because when you empower a woman, you empower a nation. When you train a man, you train a human being. But when you train one woman, you have trained a village. You have trained a community. So it's very important that WISTA is growing in leaps and bounds, and we implore you to help women in the maritime to continue to grow. We are about training women, projecting women, granting visibility to women to occupy leadership positions.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Please let's appreciate her for that. We move to Mrs. Rollins McFoy, the president of WIMA Nigeria. So can you give us a brief of what WIMA Nigeria is all about, the vision, the mission, the objectives of WIMA Nigeria?
WIMA Nigeria was formed 27th March in 2015. It was established by the African Union. And that was when Dr. Zuma was the chairperson of the African Union. After going around the African countries, it was found out that not many women are in the maritime industry, and not many of them have heard even about it. And so the African Union Committee took it upon themselves to want to integrate women, train them, and expose them to this industry. And how will they do so? WIMA was born. Therefore, we became the baby of African Union. And we key to the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, which is strictly blue economy and marine. Okay, and then WIMA is now in 28 countries, African countries. And then to support what my sister here has said, we all know what is happening today with Niger, France, Germany, UK, US, and we know that these things are driven down Africa. Because the establishment of WISTA, which is over 40 years old, would have been just enough. But Africans are sidetracked in so many things. And it's like European thing. We pay dues to them, we do this, we do that, and we own most of the mineral resources, and we own our own sea and all that. That's the reason why African Union feel that we should have an African concept with a powerful pressure group to grow the African women who might be undermined in the international world global sector. Some sets of women, we have evolved. We are no longer petty. we are powerful, we are educated, we are exposed, we are professionally armed to the teeth. I climb vessels. I've been on FPSOs, I've been on VLCC vessels, I do inspection, I do survey. There is no, I surveyed FPSO Mistress for Ajip, and I went by helicopter, I went on board, and I went and I saw and I conquered. What more can a woman not do in this industry?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Next is Mrs. Lawrence Njoku, representing the president, assistant president, deputy president, sorry, of the Female Seafarers Association. Can you give us just a brief about your association?
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to say a very big thank you to our senior friends. Thank you, Mrs. Mark, for it. She's a mother, and she's actually, the association women has been on the cause for real. Everything she said and more is true. Now, about FESAN, Female Seafarers Association of Nigeria, was born after the celebration of the 2019 Come on board with women, the Seafarers Day, that was themed on board with gender equality. Yes, that was when FESAN was born. Now, FESAN came to be because we were looking forward to a body where these seafarers could be shopped. These seafarers could, whenever people want seafarers, they have a place to go to, not going to different associations to ask, okay, do you have seafarers here or not? So we thought it wise that we seafarers should have a uniform place where all of us can gather and speak one voice and speak as seafarers. In FESAN, we have captains, we have engineers of different ranks, we have officers. I myself am a second officer that I've worked on board as a third officer. We have cadets, a lot of people on board already, and so many other people looking for job. So it's also an advocacy group where women are found, women that want to go on board, women that want to work on a vessel. That is where they are found. So we do a lot of webinars for our members. We advocate for them. Some of us are under WIMA doing the same advocacy. We also do a lot of training for them, in-house training. Most times we invite people to talk to our seafarers to make them seaworthy, to prepare them for the task ahead, because going on board the vessel is not something you just do breaking up and say you want to go on board. You have to be mentally prepared. Your character, everything about you, you have to be ready. So in FESAN, we prepare our members academically and otherwise, and we also talk to a lot of organizations, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria, about our members, because of course, a lot of female seafarers are not on board. A lot of female seafarers are looking for jobs. So after the 2019 Female Seafarers Day that NIMASA held, and IMO also themed on board with gender equality, this body came to be, so that whenever anybody is looking for seafarers, female seafarers, they have somewhere to go to. They have a body they can come to and say, we need cadets. Do you have cadets? Okay, we need this amount of cadets. Do you have officers to work? We need this amount of officers. And these people are prepared to also go on board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Since you have the microphone, I think I will ask you, I'll start from you. Now, pollution is a big threat to marine life, to achieving blue economy, even regards to greener shipping. Now, women in your association and in the maritime sector, how does this affect their productivity?
Okay. Marine pollution is something we all are aware about. The MARPO has just been 50 years today that it came into force. So every one of us in my association are seafarers. So one way or the other, we have taken up courses regarding MARPO. We all know what MARPO is about. We all know what pollution can do to the sea. and this is the place we work. So if we allow pollution to carry on, meaning that in few years to come, we will not have a sea to work on. So that is it. That is how it affects us. It affects us knowing that if we keep allowing pollution on our waters, very soon global warming will destroy the seas. We will see ice coming up from where it is into our waters, and then we will not have a sea to sail on. Our vessels will no longer be safe on the water. So that is one major way it has affected us as seafarers. Then another way, all of us survive, you know, we eat the seafoods that comes from these seas. Marine pollution is not safe for the animals that are inside the water. So as human beings, we survive from this seafood. So if pollution keeps happening and then our animals keeps dying, meaning that there won't be sufficient food as time goes on for humans to consume. So that is another way it has, you know, had an impact on us in our association. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll go to the president of Women Nigeria. Apart from you being the president of Women Nigeria, you're also actively involved in the maritime business. You are the CEO of Ocean Deep Services, and you also have a nickname, Mama Seafarers. You deal with, you're actively involved with the seafarers, even female seafarers. Now, looking at pollution, you know, and the productivity of women in the maritime industry, knowing that that is the bedrock of their lives, that's where they get their income from. How does it affect their productivity and even their businesses?
Thank you very much. I want to expressly say here that pollution is not just the sea. So when we look at it, we should look at it vastly. Because when we talk about the sea, the pollution that happens on the sea is quite minimal, because it's either you have oil pollution from the vessels, or you have some kind of pollution from waste through vessels also, and then just about a few of that. And it's not all the time. These are things that happen sparingly, though their effects are very much, you know, it has a very, very, very damaging effect on the sea. But I want us to note here that our existence, like has been said, is dependent on the sea. A lot of people don't know it. Over 95% of our wealth, of the global world wealth, comes from the sea, shipping. If you look at yourself from head to toe now, you will agree with me. We talk about the food and whatever, even the microphone I'm holding, so many things, sea. And so, the onus is on you and I to make sure that the sea is clean. We talk about blue economy, sustainable use, you know, for us to sustain ourselves through the sea, and for us also to preserve the life of the sea. How do we do this? It starts from even the minimal, ordinary housewife, if there's anything like that. The housewife, how do you discard your waste? How do you go about your waste? An estate, an environment, a street, what happens to your waste? All the waste end up in the gutter, in this area of the country where we belong. And from the gutter, where does it go to? Rains just came down, just on Monday or Saturday. Many of you must have seen it. 3 hours rain along the so-called new express, Badagry Expressway that they've just built. Flood swallowed 2 hillocks. 2. Flood covered 2 hillocks. Police hillocks and another white hillocks. What's the problem? Is that a sea now? It's not a sea, but by the next day, Monday, Sunday, everything had gone. Where did they go? Sea. Why did it happen? Pollution. Waste from homes, from markets. Go to the market, it's a menace. I'll rest my case so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very insightful. Madam Eunice, in your opinion, looking at the waste from ship, how does it affect women in maritime, their productivity, their businesses, and looking at the fact that We Stand Nigeria also help women along the coastal lines to empower them with, shipping hooks and baskets and all of that. In your relationship with them, how are women being affected?
Thank you very much. I must start by stressing that pollution of the oceans and the seas is not just from the vessels, it's not from ships only. Pollution comes from oil spillages. If you go to the coastal areas where there are oil drillings, their waters always have oily fumes on top of their waters. There are no ships there, but these spillages and these pollutants are from the drilling companies that operate there. Then, now that some of them have gone offshore, there are also some spillages that happen there that are not even captured. So, having said that, there is an interdependency between humans and the oceans, and that is the ecosystem. There must be a balance between these two because we depend on the sea for sustenance, and the sea also depends on human to exist sustainably. Therefore, when you talk of pollution, we must think and look for the sources of the pollution, which is called the pollutants. Women in maritime associations address or try to address this. I am happy that government, after 50 years of MAPOL, have deemed it necessary to create a ministry dedicated to blue economy and the marine industry. However, there is need to go further. How do we go further? By creating a legislation, the necessary framework and the legislative processes that will either ban or regulate the use of plastics.
Well, we've come to the end of this panel session. We're open for questions from the floor. If we have any questions, the MC will pass the microphone for questions. But before the question session, please can we appreciate these women seated with me? They've done justice to the question in regards to women in maritime handling pollution. How can this be handled, especially how it affects women in the maritime industry, their income, their businesses, and also the blue economy, marine life, and a bit to achieve greener shipping. Thank you. Please, we'd like your name and your designation, and then your question, please.
Okay, my name is Adewale Lawa. I'm a sustainability consultant at Mazars in Nigeria. This is just a form of a contribution, not a question per se. So I know that for us to solve the issue of pollution in the marine sector, it is very important that now that we have the Ministry of Blue Economy, Marine and Blue Economy, to work with Federal Ministry of Environment. We know that there is a policy under the Federal Ministry of Environment that is called Extended Producer Responsibility, EPR. The problem is that there is a policy, but it has not been fully implemented. Sometimes NESRA is always at the forefront of trying to see to the implementation, but they are still not doing a lot with regards to that. So for the now that we have the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, they need to work with the Federal Ministry of Environment to ensure that we're able to solve the issue of pollution in our water bodies.
My name is Onome Joy Monije. I'm a custom broker and a member of WIMA. Talking about MOPO at 50 and blue green shipping, I want to look at, I work in Tinkan, and for we women, whether we can take it as a leave, if you pass through from Tinkan, from Maitu to Apapa, which have the port at Lagos, you see that the whole place is in a mess. And those things go back to the water as well. So I don't know, taking home from here the Women Association here, whether we can come together to see that if we would be the one to help to collaborate with the local government so that we can make our ports clean, because passing through that road every day is not healthy for us. So if there will be a collaboration amongst all of us here so that we can take it as a stand that the women, since the local government, the government don't want to work, it can be our duty to see that women come together as one voice, to see that we clear the road from, especially from that sunrise to Apapa.
My name is Adekola Thompson. I'm an associate at Africa Law Practice, NG & Co. So my question is more towards an idea. Before you change the minds of the people, the best place to start would be with children, because their minds are like sponges and the ideas haven't entirely formed yet. So I would like to ask, have there been any moves towards educating children in schools and excursions on how best to manage these problems?
In answer to that, 3 years ago, the first waste museum in Africa was born by a member of WIMA Jumoke, and she's been carrying the campaign to different schools, like you said. A lot of tires, a lot of bottles. We are presently using colorful bottles to prepare Christmas trees, and using like waste tires to prepare seats, chairs in homes. The campaign has gone so far that even the American Embassy have recognized it, and the United Nations have recognized it. I was among the team that went with the American Embassy and United Nations to flag off that project, and that project has gone very big now. And as I speak to you, over 1,000 schools have been covered in this project, just like you said, sensitizing them and even teaching them how to dispose this waste and the ones that can be reused. And this campaign is still going on, and we hope that it will grow wider and wider.
Children didn't come out from the school, they come out from their homes. You said that their mind is like sponges. They learn more from observation than what you say. Therefore, if parents and the adults around children don't start with behaving or creating the habit of cleaner environment, proper disposal of waste, the children will learn even before they get to the school. The teachers also, apart from teaching, speaking, by their habits of disposing waste properly, the children will also learn mostly by observing. Because when you speak and you don't walk your talk, the children don't listen to that. They listen and learn more by observation and by what they see. So I'm advocating starting from the home. You don't eat or drink and throw whatever it is in your compound. You throw it in the garbage, and the garbage must be properly disposed. It must be properly disposed, not in the gutter in front of your house or just on the main road.
Waste management, an issue in Nigeria, is a mindset issue. Because if everyone seated in this room as a Nigerian, or if every Nigerian leaves Nigeria to an environment where these things are done properly, you find out that you are lying. You will not do otherwise, because that is not the way it is being done there. So even down to the children, when you bring up a child in an environment where these things are done properly, the children aligns as well. So I think it's a mindset that we have, because nobody cares, nobody really apprehends us when we do these things wrongly, so we just go ahead to do them. So if proper policies, governance are put in place, we will find out that we all will align, and our children too will follow suit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank Mrs. Eunice Ezeuke, the president of Western Nigeria, for being a part of the panel session. I also like to thank Mrs. Rawlings McFoy, the president of Women Nigeria, for being a part of this session. And also want to thank Mrs. Lois Njoku, representing Damilola from FESAN. I want to thank every one of us who actively participated and suggested. And we've deduced that we need government intervention. We need a mindset reprogramming where women should be given opportunities. The private sector should be involved actively. And then also people should take responsibility for their waste. Starting from here, how do we dump whatever we have in our hands when we leave this room? And also policies should be well implemented and monitored. Thank you very much. My name remains Ramatu Karibimina. God bless you.
A round of applause for them, please.
The second roundtable session focused on maritime law and arbitration, with the topic MARPOL Convention and the order to burn vessels, conflict of interest, security and environmental issues. It also had a plenary session for questions and answers. While the third roundtable session was moderated by Honorable Violet Olaiton Williams, founder Ocean Ambassadors, which focused on maritime training and education. And the topic of discussion was training, manpower development for the maritime industry in Nigeria. This roundtable discussion also had plenary sessions for questions and answers.
It's my pleasure to moderate this session this afternoon. My name is Jesu Yemisi Odeyemi. I'm the Group Head Legal and Group Company Secretary for CIFAX Group. And with me here today representing the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Toso, is Justice Olayinka Faji. A round of applause once again, please. He's very vast in maritime matters, and I'm sure that his contribution today will be very insightful, particularly as we explore the topic MARPOL Convention and order to burn vessels, conflict of interest, security, and environmental issues. So we'll just go right into it. So, sir, in light of the recent happenings, particularly in trying to combat this illegality of oil bunkering, we've had situations where we've had orders to burn vessels that were intercepted with stolen crude oil, and it's raised a lot of questions as to its legality, if it's security issues, environmental impact, and economic impact. And is there another way that this could have been could be achieved without necessarily burning the vessels?
I just want to say that at the onset that the maritime industry is very, very critical. It's responsible for the carriage of 80% of the total world trade, and the need for the Convention on Prevention of Pollution from Ships came up because of the rather devastating pollutions that took place sometimes in the 70s, the case of the Amoco Cadiz and the case of the Torre Canyon. And so there was a need for the shipping community to do something about this and prevent a reoccurrence of such an incident. And of course, you know that when there is a pollution from a ship, it destroys the entire ecosystem. I don't know if any of us has seen a typical pollution site in the Niger Delta, and you see how crude actually destroys people's lives. I listened to the session on women in shipping, and I was quite appalled when the position in Port Harcourt about 40 years ago was relayed, and what it is now. People could fish in their drains, but now what they have in their drains is crude oil, and crude oil is a very nasty thing. even though it's responsible for the wealth of many nations. There are problems of enforcement of the MAPO Convention, sometimes due basically to lack of political will, and at times because of lack of resources. Not all states have the capacity to enforce the provisions of the convention. But of course, in Nigeria, we do have an organization now, NIMASA, which has statutory functions under sections 40 and 44 of its laws to regulate marine pollution and to also act as the remover of wrecks. And of course, NIMASA also has powers to make regulations for the enforcement of its powers. Of course, the Merchant Shipping Act also has some provisions. Just a little on the domain, the maritime domain of Nigeria, for us to have an idea of how wide the area we're talking about is. Nigeria, of course, is located in West Africa in the tropics. It lies between 4 degrees north of the equator on its southern parts and 14 degrees on its northern parts in tropical West Africa. Covers a total of 923,000 square kilometers, a land area of 910 square kilometers, and a coastline of 853 kilometers. Inland waterways totaling 8,573 kilometers, consisting largely of the rivers Benue and Niger. And of course, if you realize that the coastline of Nigeria stretches from as far as Equatorial Guinea up to Benin Republic, and that on that littoral platform, we have so many states, at least 7 littoral states on that platform, then you can imagine what would happen if there is an oil spill, particularly for the vessel within Nigeria's territorial waters.
Now, our own is maritime education. And definitely, without this education, we all would not be here. And we have the singular pleasure of introducing Professor Iyolone of University of Lagos.
We are to quickly look at the modalities for effective manpower development in the maritime industry. Now, we want to look at the maritime industry in Nigeria. We see that it embraces all related activities, from offshore economic activities, including fishing, salvage, towage, and underwater resources, as well as onshore economic activities, such as port activities, maritime transport, which calls shipping, ship construction, and repairs. Now we have important sections of the maritime industry. We have to put all these things into proper perspective. Like I said, it's a very, very broad area that we need to look at. We have the maritime shipping, we have the ports itself, we have the shipbuilding, we have the marine engineering, we have the offshore wind energy, as well as shipbuilding, as well as maritime research and development. And this is the area where we belong. What are the fundamental principles that has to guide us in all this? We are talking of safe navigation, sustainable marine and environmental conservation, enforceable norms on ships and ports, as well as minimizing pollution of the seas, which include waste dumping, oil, and pollution. But emphatically, I can say, it's very, very easy to say, yes, dumping of hazardous goods on the sea, and so on. But the landward end is even more inimical to the growth of the maritime industry. What we do on the land is even more dangerous at times to what we do on water. Nigeria is still a country that flares the gas. We do, arbitrary sand mining all over the place. And we dump all the waste anywhere. We dump our sludge, that is the remains of the vehicles that we service, into the drains and all these things go back. Lagos as of today doesn't have a sewage plan. Everybody is a local government on his own in Lagos. You are in Ikorodu, you do your toilet, you do your, what do you call it? You bore your wells, you do everything. You bury debts at home, and so on and so forth. So what we do on the land impacts the ports environment as well as the maritime environment. What are the various challenges as body of academia? Protecting the biodiversity, biofouling, the transfer of invasive species, plastics has been talked more about, as well as noise pollution, very, very inimical to our health. Then the systemic analysis of ocean policies. We have been guided by various conventions. A lot of international conventions are yet to be domesticated and domiciled within the confines at the local level, the local governance. You know that in most local governments, most of the local governments are as dead as dodo. They are not performing. So eventually these are the people. It's only the state and the federal that are really doing it. So for us to really have a depth of the analysis and to be able to profile long-lasting solutions, we have to carry our solutions as far as the rural areas, the local communities, and so on and so forth. The environmental regulations. Yes, everybody says the blue economy, but what of the Federal Ministry of Environment? The Federal Ministry of Environment has a very big agency in Port Harcourt that deals with all these, remediation, and you have a large array of, agencies, even at the state level, La SEPA. To what extent are the institutional arrangements being tidied up? Everybody's on his own. You do your own, I do my own. So at the end of the day, we can't find a straightforward solution.
My name is Dr. Ambrose Orogun. I'm a senior consultant and also the country rep for Port of Antwerp in Nigeria. I want to make a contribution to the comment by our Honorable Prof. He says, why are our seafarers not properly engaged? This is a major concern, I believe, to the public sector, to the government, NIMASA, and also to the private sector, even the ship owners. One of the major challenges I want to highlight is the fact that NIMASA issues a certificate that is tagged near coastal voyage, NCV. The near coastal voyage certificate means that our certified engineers, mariners, and nautical science are only permitted to sail vessels, take command of vessels within certain limits of the coast. And the reason is that the IMO requirement, to the best of my knowledge, we are not able to meet up with the expected training level that could permit our seafarer to be certified as unlimited. My suggestion is that the federal government through NIMASA should liberalize certification institutions, because as of today, it is only the Maritime Academy of Nigeria is recognized by the IMO to certify, to train, and also certify in terms of certificate of proficiency Nigerian seafarers.
So my question goes to the Honorable Justice. My name is Lois Njoko. I'm a seafarer. Now, sir, I would like to ask regarding the Admiralty Court. Is it open to seafarers? Like, can a seafarer walk into the Admiralty Court and probably sue a shipping company that is not treating them fairly? That's one. And then secondly, where can we find this Admiralty Court? Thank you, sir.
I think that's the most simple question I've had this afternoon. Unfortunately, there is still some kind of legal contention about which courts should handle cases involving crewmen's wages. At the moment, the decision of the Court of Appeal is to the effect that crewmen's wages will be handled by the National Industrial Court. Unfortunately, the National Industrial Court doesn't have admiralty jurisdiction. And of course, you know, one of the major weapons in the admiralty courts is the power to proceed in rem against the vessel. And you also know that a seaman's wages constitutes a maritime lien on the vessel, and it goes along with the vessel, whatever happens to it. Even if the vessel is sold 10 times, that lien attaches to that vessel. But the Court of Appeal has held that the court that has the powers to do that for the seaman doesn't have jurisdiction in respect of seamen's wages. So right now, I think you have to wait for the Supreme Court to lay the matter to rest, so we'll know which court really has jurisdiction. It was my own decision that was overruled by the Court of Appeal. My own personal opinion is that a court that has the powers to give effective remedy should be the courts that will, you know, handle admiralty cases, seamen's wages, and also that the Labour Act had excluded the seamen's wages and airmen's wages from its provisions. And if the NIC is to give effect to the Labour Act, and the Labour Act says, look, I'm not applicable when it comes to seamen and airmen, then it also means then that the National Industrial Court has no jurisdiction. But that decision is wrong, according to the Court of Appeal, and the jury is still out. Now, you want to know where the Admiralty Court is. Well, Admiralty Court generally, for now, the Admiralty Court, which the seaman cannot go to, but for other Admiralty cases, is on Queen's Drive. I think if you look on the other side of the river, you'll be able to see the Federal High Court on the other side.
I represent the women in energy, oil, and gas. So some people will be wondering, what's energy, oil, and gas got to do with marine and maritime and seafarer, you know, and I've had to answer that question several times. But it is very, very important to highlight the fact that even apart from the import and export activities in the marine industry, we have a lot of other maritime activities in the energy value chain that people aren't even looking at all. More so, most of the people in that space are expatriates. And that is a space that I would like to encourage all of us to start looking at. So I'm sure you know that even our reads are still in the maritime industry. Do we agree with me? So our reads, our FPSO, if you work on the FPSO here, you do anything with any FPSO? Okay. Oh, just one person. Okay. Our FLNG. FLNG is floating natural gas. Is a new one, and the very first one that is coming into Nigeria is just being built by an organization called UTM Offshore. Who is aware of that?
The conference also saw one of the exhibitors at the conference, Cleaner Land Center Laboratories, giving a brief presentation on their services.
Studies have shown that when you check productivity rates in employees or in organizations, we find out that employee health could impact positively or negatively towards productivity. And for most companies, for most organizations, productivity is very important because that's exactly why the employees are employed. And we understand that employee health or employee well-being, as the case may be, is very important to productivity, very important to making even your organization a choice organization. And so we understand that the unhappy or unhealthy employee can impact negatively productivity and output of your company. Studies have shown in the past that 93% or 79% of employees experience wellness programs positively impact them, and hence corporate wellness programs are vital in forming holistic development within every organization. Like I earlier said, productivity is very important to employees or to employers, and as such, if you look after your employees, they in turn will become ambassadors of your organization. And so that led Cleaner Lancet to opening up a new line of business, which is called our wellness, occupational health and wellness centers. Cleaner Lancet, okay, let me first of all, so you see occupational and preventive health. Cleaner Lancet Solutions is tailor-made for your organization. We have subject matter experts that come into your organization, look at your environment around you. The HSE professionals, if they're here, they would understand what I'm saying. We look at your organization, look at the risks or hazards that your company are exposing the employees to. Custom-made solutions to mitigate those hazards, control measures. We also monitor those control measures and control programs.
The second day was rounded off with a presentation of a communique on the conference and award of certificates to participants.
I would like to present the certificates, and you please come forward if you hear your name. The first person, I think this first person should in fact get a big round of applause for being the first. I hope she is here. Is Lillian Chinazon Naji. Or Neji. Ah, she's not here. Asinobi Ezinne Mbeudo. Ah, please give him a round of applause. Asinobi Ezinne Mbeudo. You? Oh, you are collecting by proxy. Oh, I wanted to say we should give you a bigger round of applause. Anyway, so. Onome Monije. Onome Monije. Okay. A round of applause for her, please. A big round of applause for her. Roland. Oh, okay. Okay, this is by proxy too. Yes. Okay. Roland Ijabi. Roland Ijabi. Okay. Suleiman Musa. Suleiman Musa. Sani Babatunde. A round of applause for him. So he's the first to be personally present. So a bigger round of applause for him, please. Olumide Opadeji. Olumide Opadeji. Ogunbiyi Michael Temitope. A round of applause for him, please. Nkechi Obichere. Nkechi Obichere. Adetola Lawal. Adetola Lawal. David Oyeso. David Onyeso. Okay, a round of applause for him. Keep the applause going until he gets here. Akonde Mariam. A round of applause for her. Keep it going, keep the applause going. Last but not the least, Miriam Arowolo. Oh. A big round of applause for her for being the last one to come.
The third day, which marked the grand finale of the event, saw participants at the Lagos State Waterways Agency LASWA for an excursion. Participants were taken to the operational office and also to the Arts Center, where debris from the ocean, including seaweeds, are put to good use to make artworks at affordable prices. The hallmark of the excursion was a boat cruise from Victoria Island to Lekki Access, where participants enjoy the sights and sounds of the vicinity.
On a straight line, we said 360 as well, but this is just on a straight line. It's less than 30 minutes, but we've spent close to 37 minutes. On behalf of the FDCU Lagos State Ferry Service, on behalf of our Grandfather, the GM LASWA, Mr. Damilola, we want to say thank you for choosing us. We hope to see you and your family some other time. Once we come on waterways, water is free, it's safe, it's efficient. Everything you want on water, you get it. There is no accident. Don't let anybody scare you that. No. We preach safety. Safety is our watchword. So we want to thank you for coming and do have a lovely day. My name is Ainde Bolaji. I'm the head of marketing Lagos State Ferry Service. If you have any inquiry, if you have anything you want to do on water, anything, even you want to swim with mommy water on water, ask me.
So welcome to MARITIME, all things water hyacinth. So if you're familiar with water hyacinth, it's an invasive aquatic weed that you typically find on the lagoon. So if you're going over Third Mainland Bridge, heading back, just look, you'll see some green plants around that Mashko area and on the other side. That green plant that typically comes in around December. Exactly. So these products are made from them. Really? Yes.
They're harvested and dried?
Yes, harvested and dried. And then, yes, so we harvest it dry. The plant is 95% water. So by the time it dries out, we have about 5% dry weight.
Can I touch?
Oh, yes, you can touch this one. Yes.
So it takes a lot of water hyacinth to produce this.
Yes, yes. And we have lots of it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know where they all come from.
Yes, of course.
Where the water hyacinth comes from. It was not like that.
Yeah.
So suddenly we started seeing through
yes,
the
in the
waters.
mid-80s. So
Yes.
it arrived in Nigeria in the mid-80s.
From where?
Well, they say it came from the Kemba Creek. In Ghana.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it could have been brought by ships, but once the seeds, enter into the waters, it just starts to produce exactly. Exactly, it's the fastest reproducing weed, so it reproduces quite rapidly. Yes, so we have different patterns that we weave. So we do the ropes. In some instances, we just use the stems. So if you look around, you just see a different aesthetic depending on the product. But it's mostly water hyacinth. We also have a couple of other items that are made from banana fiber. So essentially looking at agricultural residues and how we can transform those into lifestyle products. But it's a story about natural fibers that are ordinarily considered waste or environmental menaces that we're transforming into functional use.
Do you teach? Wow. This is calabash that you won't.
But interesting. So go ahead.
It's not calabash.
So it's it has the shape of the calabash or the board, but it's actually paper mache. So we actually collect paper waste and then we make paper mache, mold it, and then other things that have been woven with water hyacinth using our indigenous looms. So the brown that you're seeing here in the background, this is all water hyacinth, and then we combined it with fish twine. So we're telling a water story here. It smells green. Okay, well, welcome to our green space, where we're showcasing all things water hyacinth with a few made from banana fiber. But essentially, all that you see here are made from natural fibers, either environmental menaces or agricultural residues. And then what else do we have? Yes, agricultural residues and environmental menaces. Of particular, I guess the highlight is the water hyacinth, which I think some of you are familiar with. It's that green invasive aquatic plant that you see in that lagoon that comes around. It's actually started coming in right now. So I think, yes. So this is the season. By November, December, you'll see lots of it. So essentially, what we're demonstrating here is that we can actually take this environmental menace and create value from it, working with communities that are affected by the infestation. So all that you see here are essentially lifestyle, home decor products, home decor and lifestyle. So either things that you put on your walls, on the floor, use on your dining table. Somebody picked this and said, this is all water hyacinth. It's a combination of water hyacinth and then our local fabric. So we have added. So what we try to do is infuse as much of our culture in the products that we make.
Indeed, it was a conference to remember, as industry experts within and outside Lagos and Nigeria had the opportunity to rub minds, learn industry developments, and network with one another.